Notice how comfortable you are. Could you try another position to sit in? And another? And each time you arrive in another position, notice, is it more or less comfortable, or maybe it's about the same. Try another, please. Notice, and another. And as you arrive in the next position, does anything stand out to you, for you, in you? Like changing position? Yeah, me too. Anyone else like changing position? Ah. Don't you find it interesting? With my clients in my practice, they so get used to sitting in one position. And maybe at one position, it may be one organization that they use for one particular task, and they transfer it to everything, rather than thinking about whether it is the most comfortable for where they are right now. So if you were to imagine that you were going to, there was someone lying in front of you, and you were going to touch their shoulder, would you choose the same way of sitting? No? What would you want to be different? You don't have to answer me, you can just think about it. How available is the space around you for your hands to lengthen into? And keep coming back to that kinesphere. You know, your hand can go somewhere, but so could your elbow, or in the opposite direction, or So you're just exploring how much space is available for you to reach with your hands in a comfortable way. So you're not extending yourself or, holding your breath. And what's different when you can move in the space around you? What's different about your organization, maybe it's your orientation, than when you don't have access? Any comments about that? You might want to try another position. Change to another position. And explore the space around you. And is there anything that limits you or stops you from going somewhere, somehow? And as you know from the exploring you've been doing, is that you could ask yourself, is it a real limitation or an imagined limitation? So some of you are starting to use the ATMs to change your sitting position now. So when there's more space around you that you can inhabit with your hands, what's different about your organization? Any thoughts?
Arms need to be free.
Arms are free. But what creates the freedom of your arms? Pelvis? Uh-huh. Anyone else feel that? Their pelvis being what enables their arms to be free? Too many at once, sorry. Oh, they were all great. I want them all. Pardon? Mobile. Someone said degrees. Something. Degrees of freedom. Thank you. Free to move in all directions. Pardon? It may be the same, or it may not be the same. You know, you could have an increase in freedom in one direction, not all directions. So pelvis, free to move in all directions. So we're doing a little bit of idealism here. So if your pelvis is free to move in all directions, then you're likely to have access to more directions of space. If your pelvis can't go in one direction, then it's going to change where in space you can reach. So pelvis mobile, arms free. What else helps free your arms? Nicole?
Stretchability of your muscles.
Stretchability of your muscles. So if you have unnecessary tension in your muscles, then they won't feel as elongatable or able to lengthen for you. But in actual fact, that comes from the patterns in your brain. And it's not necessarily a factor in getting your pelvis mobile. Because what we're looking at here now is, we've done a few processes on the floor, and you may be getting a little bit more comfortable on the floor. But for most adults, to stay for any length of time on the floor, it's just not an option. They just wouldn't think about it. And in the training program, we do a lot of things on the floor. So it's kind of this paradox where looking to learn, we're talking about comfort, and then here we are doing things on the floor where we're not so comfortable, and it's really challenging, and how do we get more comfortable? There is method in the madness, as you might imagine. And one of the reasons is you have to think about it. One, actually practically, tables are expensive right now. So to get tables, big outlay. You don't need tables, and what we're looking for is a flexible attention, inclusive attention, and flexible mind, so that you can orient internally and externally at the same time. And it's a tough lesson to learn, tougher for some than others, to be on the floor, to get comfortable, and then pay attention to someone else. But in order to pay attention to someone else, there is a certain degree of comfort that is absolutely necessary.
So I just watched Danielle, and I thought, I would like to find the ground wherever I was working. And yes, I'd like to be able to move my pelvis, but I really want to have a really good sense of ground.
Yeah, underneath you. A base, a support, something that is supporting your skeleton.
I'm just thinking of when you asked about the arms and how more easily they can move, and I was just thinking like the height of the practitioner in relation to the person that they're, working with.
Yes, that can certainly make...
If it's too high, it's too effortful.
Yes. And what can make your arms higher?
Just the seat the seat height.
Yes.
And reducing the table height or...
Yes, definitely. Anything else you think you could do to make your own arms higher? Relative to the ground.
Put them on the floor.
Yes. What are you doing, Savannah? What would you do there? Do you remember a little word called lengthen? That Julie might have mentioned 1 or 1,000 times? So it's about keeping your spine long. It's not about extending necessarily, although for some it will feel like that, but about maintaining your length. So if you are sitting and you go down, 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 you might be able to move your arms down easily, but up or anywhere else is a contradiction within your self-organisation. Starts to be, who wanted the microphone over here? Was it you, Anka? It's gone? Okay. So long spine, mobile base, sense of the ground.
kind of goes with sense of the ground, but also ability to be able to keep your balance without using your arms. So if you want your arms to be free, you need to be able to move, but also to be able to balance within that base.
Yes, so that definitely goes with the sense of the ground and having that equilibrium. Any others? That
Centre of gravity.
What about it?
You want it to be kind of up a little bit, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Rather than, well, it's
Can you show me what you mean?
keeping with, well, for me,
Sorry.
for me, because I'm not flexible, something like this is good for me because my pelvis is fairly, it's raised higher. So it feels like my centre of gravity is more around here, whereas if I was down here, my centre of gravity is on the floor.
Yes.
And so up here I have access to everything and my arms are higher and my pelvis is mobile. But it feels to me like my centre of gravity here is more around where my pelvis is.
Great. Okay, we're going to we'll introduce the next layer of complexity in a little while, but position.
Yeah, just adding on to that, I thought maybe stability. So, as opposed to instability, so maybe having your feet or legs a little bit wider apart.
So that you've got a bigger base of support, and so you can feel stable, perhaps further, because you're still with your centre of gravity is still within your base of support. Could you try that, Simon? Spreading your knees a little and see if it feels any. Does that give you more access? Any?
Yes and no,
So
because
come back
I'm
in.
actually quite restricted in my hips. So for me, it does.
Thank you. So you never know till you have a go. Who said that famous saying? Gone? I saw another hand somewhere, but I've forgotten whose it was.
I haven't worked this one out in my head, but the pelvis is obviously really important, and I discovered that as I moved in all the different positions. And to an extent, how mobile my legs are going to be depends on my pelvis, but I found that there were positions where my pelvis was mobile, but my legs still got in the way, if that makes any sense. So there must be some relationship also between the legs and the pelvis in some way. But I haven't worked that out completely yet.
Absolutely. Well, if you think of...
Yeah, so how you can be mobile in the pelvis, but your legs not get in the way, I guess is what I'm saying.
And there's going to be different situations, and we'll be exploring that.
Those three words, timing, orientation, organisation.
Timing, orientation, and organisation.
It's still pelvis orientated, but understanding the sit bones and the midline from the sit bones. Like when I've had FIs that have given me that, then I've been comfortable to sit. Trying to hold on to that is not where I'm at yet, but but the times when I have felt comfortable to sit, I've known where my sit bones were and my midline, and I've had the length was easy because of that. Whereas if I don't, like obviously everyone saw yesterday, I don't have my sit bones here, so I'm not comfortable for very long, and I find it hard to extend. And like I can, but it feels a lot more forceful than when I can really just...
Sit like that. Okay. So could you get... Sorry. Come back. Is that you, Anka? Yeah. A scratch? Wow, quick, huh?
I was just thinking the other aspect is that availability of movement. So from a position like this, you can readily change your position, but...
so available to make a transition. Have you watched Jenny and Julie and Ruth giving FIs and how often we change position? If you get too comfortable, yes, you lose that freedom. Is that up now?
Yes. I guess it's also with the last 2 days really this freedom in between the pelvis and the shoulders, like all this movement that that is already available without making a difference in my hips. And it's less so if I if I lock my pelvis in, actually, like I'm slumping a lot more, and I can't actually like rotate as much through my middle either. Like it's
Fabulous. So, Anka's just landed on something that's really important, and that's that. So we'll just take a momentary side detour because it's very related. So Anka was saying she loses the freedom in her middle when her pelvis is rolled backwards and she's collapsed down into that position. And all the large muscles of the body, the biggest, most powerful muscles, are attached to the pelvis. I don't want to keep holding that. I finally got over my phobia of microphones, obviously. Can't get enough of them. So all the large muscles are attached around the pelvis, to the legs, to the back, the abdomen. And the larger muscles tend to be around the proximal joints. That's the ones closer to the centre, the shoulders and the hips, but largely around the pelvis. So Moshe talks about the metaphor of the pelvis being like a submarine and the spine and the head, the spine being like a periscope, and the head and the teleceptors are like the viewer out of the top of the periscope. So in order for the power of the pelvis to travel through the spine, to keep the spine long, to keep your teleceptors free, to enable you to have lighter arms, you need this really important connection, which is what you're talking about. So, back to track. Could you get together with 2 other people and explore how comfortable how you can find a comfortable position using any props you like, including table, because there's a couple of you who I think would probably be more comfortable with table, but you can try it on the floor first. That would enable you to be available to, if a person was in front of you, reach down to their head. If you're sitting behind, so you've got different positions. If you're sitting behind, you could reach their shoulder. So you're going to help each other find options how to be more comfortable with those criteria. So the criteria: base of support, mobile pelvis, long length of the spine, freedom of the head, and lightness of the arms.
Are props permitted?
Yeah.
Already spoken. You just missed that. Rollers, pads, mats. But then you need to consider some props, depending on where you are going to be in relationship to a person, might actually interfere. Okay, so it's weighing up the options. That's it.